Get it?
What
Yeah.
did I do, my friend? I reinvented.
Wow.
So I want to say this one of my last and final thoughts for
Mm-hmm.
people out there. If you're still waiting for things to change and go
Stop
back to where they
waiting.
were,
Stop waiting.
you are in serious trouble.
Big
You are
trouble.
in serious trouble because the
Wow.
reality is the world was, there's an old saying to get my age away. It was the rug was pulled from under us. And
Mm.
the reality is it ain't going back.
It's not.
So yeah, do I do live programs again? Sure. But
Mm.
75% of my business is still virtual and growing
Wow.
because of the reality of the times we live in. I would be a fool to go
Mm.
back and try to reinvent, go back to where.
I'm Andre, and this is the Speak Your Life podcast, where we talk about everything as it relates to education, careers, values, mentors, and anything to do with purpose. We do this one impactful conversation at a time, whether a solo dolo with yours truly or our amazing guests to share stories, industry insights, encouraging words, and calls to action that can help you get closer to your why. Become a part of the Speak Your Life community by subscribing today to the podcast and following us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Speak Your LYFE, because life without your why is meaningless. Welcome, everybody, to the Speak Your Life podcast. My name is Andre. I'm your host. As you know, if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you hit the subscribe button, whether you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, especially if you're on YouTube, because we want you to be a part of the Speak Your Life podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you can get every single piece of content that we have that's bringing value to your life. So today's special guest that we have is he's been a speaker for 20 years. He's an author of many books, and he is a family man. And as he's really dedicated husband and just amazing person overall, and is one of my mentors. Please welcome Daryl Andrews, Coach,
Yes, sir.
aka Coach D.
Yes, sir. Hey, Andrew, it's really a pleasure.
Man, how are you doing?
You know what, man?
Out of 10, how are you? 1 to 10. 1 to 10.
Yeah, 1 to 10. I'm about 10 and a half right now. I just came back from visiting my son. As you mentioned, I'm a family man at Virginia Military Institute, and I typically go up there for their home football games. Not he doesn't play football, but
Yeah,
just to support him because they allow parents to take him off the campus. And VMI is a challenging school, so it's just to have that dad support. I'm sure means a lot to him. So
yeah.
just getting back from that, but beyond that, and then literally just walking in the door. But beyond that, I just want to say something to you before we start talking about me. How proud I am of you. As you alluded to in the beginning, you're I'm sure one of your mentors, but I remember you for talking about this stuff. Like it hadn't even existed, and I'll tell you in my space, and you said I'm a speaker, but I'm also a consultant, and we strategize with companies and organizations all over the country. So we do some neat work, it's not just a speaking per se. But I run into, when you're on a stage and you're in audiences a lot, you run into a lot of people that's going to do a whole lot of things.
Yeah.
Everybody got to do something and they want to talk to you. Can I call you? Can I spend 10 minutes with you? Can I get your time? I've gotten that a million times, but I would say less than 0.1% ever do anything what they say they're going to do. So I just say kudos to you because you said it.
Yeah.
And you did it. So proud of you for that, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Yeah. So quick story, how we met. So, I was at a conference at United Airlines, and basically like they're just doing some customer service training, and Coach D was one of the speakers, and so I mean, he was, I was like, oh, we got a brother up in here. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I was one of the only ones.
Yeah. So it was kind of hard to forget that. So, I had to go, say, hey, thank you for, what you did, and just show my appreciation and respect. And we just kind of like hit it off from there. And he was like, hey, here's my card. And I was like, all right, awesome. I'll stay in contact. And sometimes people, you grab their cards and you don't stay in contact, but so far we've here it is 2 years later, more than 2 years later. So
let me say this, man, just again for your audience. I'm sure you probably got more the younger audience than old folk like me, but I will say to them, one thing you can learn from what Andre just mentioned is that we stay connected. Let me tell you why. You haven't heard this before.
Mm.
A lot of when you meet someone that you, let's quote unquote, let's say admire, or you like their presence, or you see that they're doing some neat things with their life, the worst thing you can do is go up to that person, just start, running off all the things you're going to do, all the plans you have, and, trying to really impress them with your goals and all of that. When you meet somebody in particular, they're in the flow of what they're doing, just go say hello, man. I appreciate your presentation. Thank you for coming out and taking the time. That's what you did. You didn't run up to me and start telling me 25,000 things you plan on doing. I'm gonna tell you, Andre, I get all this stuff. People comparing themselves. Oh, I speak just like you, but no, you work for this company. you can't compare yourself to me. This is what I do for a profession worldwide, and you're comparing already. We haven't even met yet. So I mean, I don't say that. I just kind of smile. We're having this conversation, so that's what I'm thinking. Like, this person, seriously. So what I'm saying is, if you want to network with people that are influencers and people who are making impact, humble yourself, man.
Yeah.
And just go up and show them some respect. Appreciate your time. Would love to connect with you if you have the time. I'm sure you're busy. And that's what you said, man. And I think people can learn from that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Definitely.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm always, like I said, I'm always learning, always trying to do better when it comes to life, business, networking, everything, interacting with people. So
you did a good job, man. That's why 2 years later we're still rocking.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, man. So people who out there who may not know your story, we talk about two things that are most important in life: the day you were born and the day you knew why. So you don't have to give us like a year per se, like I was born in this year. Like, if you want to, that's cool. If not, you can just give us like what was going on, like the 80s, like what was going on like during the culture, like what were some popular things that happened during that time, and then kind of like give us that journey of how you became who you are and why.
Well, I mean, I when as you get older, you start to feel very comfortable in just talking about your age and all of that. But I was born in the 60s.
Okay.
So, I mean, back then, the reality is it was a totally different world than what it is today. I mean, here we are interviewing on podcasts. We just didn't have all that kind of stuff going on.
Nope.
Back then, the people I grew up with were lucky to get jobs working in sanitation for the city. You were big time if you had a sanitation city job. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And so, and I had some family members that did that. My grandmother worked up in the Veterans Administration. You had people that had good jobs. They were able to take care of their families, but it wasn't, you weren't talking about electrical engineers and, scientists and things of that nature that you see today. So back then, man, the big thing in that generation was really just, well, besides Motown was, you got to put that in there too. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Besides
that's a big part of history.
Yeah, that's part of history, big time right there. but it was just trying to basically survive, man, and get a good job. I mean, seriously, just get a good job. It wasn't never an over top job, but if you can get a job where you could make a good living, could, take care of your family to the best of your ability, get like a flat, like we had these they call them, I forgot what they call them now, but they were called flats. You had a person that would live on the top and a person that lived at the bottom. Most of us lived in the project. So if you got a flat, you would hit a home run. You know what I mean? Like one of those places.
You were living large.
You were living large, and you were large in charge, man. You were the one everybody was admiring,
Yeah.
And so back then, like in Philly, now they got the row homes and all that stuff, but the flats. But I was a different kind of kid, man.
How different?
Yeah, I was different because I just didn't see that, man. I said, why are other people living certain lives? Like what is it about them that caused them to kind of achieve things that we all kind of sit around here and only admire from a distance, And so there was this guy in my hometown. Now this is going to be a lesson for some folk, but there's this guy in my hometown, Andre, that was very successful. He actually lived in the suburbs, which was totally unheard of.
He was a brother.
He was a brother.
Okay.
And so, but here's what happened. A lot of people dissed this brother because he was successful. And that's not unusual sometimes when people climb out of situations, people can create scenarios about you because you go on a different pathway. And so I lived in the same neighborhood everybody else. So I thought what they thought. This guy was stuck up or he was arrogant. I didn't know the
Sell
man.
out.
Yeah. Sell out. And so I was a
Mm-hmm.
little kid. As the adults call him a sellout, he a sellout. And so
Mm-hmm.
one day I was in a store and this guy walked in.
Yeah.
And he was smiling and seemed to be pretty nice. And in my mind, I was only thinking like 12 years old. The only thing I think they said he was like this mean sellout person, but he's smiling.
Yeah.
And so I was close enough to him to say, "Hello, sir, how you doing?" Which is I've always had the ability to talk to people, and that's what I do for a living now. Just how
Mm-hmm.
you doing? And he was the nicest guy, man. He said, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
young man, how you doing today?" And I said, "Sir, doing well, and just here buying some stuff for my mother." And he said, "Oh man," he said, "What's your dreams and goals? What do you want to do with your life?" And I said, "I don't really know, but I know I want to do something. I want to maybe buy a home one day and things like that." He said, "Let me tell you something, young man, you can't." He said, I had that same dream. And but this is what he said that changed my life. He said, "But I realized that doing what everybody else is doing, I wasn't going to get it." So
Mm-hmm.
he said, "I went to college. I got a college degree and went into engineering and started a business." And he was telling me all this stuff. And he said, "Yeah, some people didn't necessarily like it because they felt like I was, going another pathway." He said, "But I was going the pathway that was for my betterment." And he
Yeah.
said, "Young man, I want you to understand something. Everybody's not going to like you pursuing your dreams, but pursue them anyway." Man, that thing stuck.
Mm-hmm.
It stuck with me. And that's when I said, I want to go to college.
Yeah, man.
Because here's this guy that everybody dissing, but he's living large and we all talking about him. But
Mm-hmm.
he gave me a lesson, man. He said, "Go after your dreams despite people dissing you, man." And I said, "You're not dissing." Back then, this wasn't one of the words, but being
Mm-hmm.
negative towards you.
Yeah.
And I hung on to that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I can share. I don't want to continue on. We can bridge this thing the way you want to go with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That was the foundational building block for me to
Mm-hmm.
say I want to do the same thing for my family. You know what I
Wow.
mean? I want to be able to create a life for my future children and beyond them. So I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
college. And there's
Yeah.
a story within that, but I'll pause and maybe we can revisit that. I have to share with that. But that was just a
Mm-hmm.
story I want to share because there's a lot of people out here dreaming and have aspiration and goals. But I want to
Mm.
let you know a lot of times when people do have them,
Okay.
there's more people that are against those dreams than for them. And
Mm-hmm.
you need to find people that's going to support your dreams because even people close to you can't always understand what you're trying to do because
Mm.
they put you
Yeah, I
in a
agree.
box. They put you in a box and they say, "This is who you are." And when you start to redefine who you are,
Mm-hmm.
that shifts the paradigm in some people's minds. Like, "Oh, who do you think you are?" You know what I'm saying, man?
Yeah, you
You
become a
going to
threat.
college? Who do you
Mm-hmm.
think you are?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna pause, see what you got to want to add to this, but that's just kind of that was a story that I wanted to share with people. It took a person, you know what I mean, who we
Mm.
all looked at as negative in our neighborhood because of what he tried to do,
Yeah.
open up my eyes to, oh wow, there's another way to do this. So that was a
Wow.
good foundation growing up for me. I got more to share, but that's just the start there.
Yeah, no, that's good. And
Mhm,
I also wanted to know, like,
mhm.
at what point, like, did you start realizing that, hey, I love to do public speaking, hey, I love to do consulting? Like, what was something that led you to that?
Yeah. You know what, man? So I'm gonna do the quick version from that stage to where I ended up. I ended up going to
Mm-hmm.
college. That was part of that dream. And
Yeah.
there's a book I want anybody to get in the story I want them to read because I'm not gonna stare at the story because it takes too long. It's
Mm-hmm.
entitled Five Garbage Bags in the Dream
Hmm.
and Chicken Soup for the African American Soul. It's an older book, but get it. That's my story.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
what's gonna happen when you read that story? You're gonna say I had a crazy, incredible journey that led me to becoming the first generation college a graduate.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, but from there, I went and worked in corporate America. I worked
Yeah.
for a Fortune 500 company by the name of Abbott Laboratories, a big
Mm-hmm.
medical diagnostics company. That was a first. So again, I'm already bridging these gaps, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Expanding to these horizons. And then, so from there, the Abbott had this thing called the lending library. And in the lending library, they will lend you back then, it's really my age away, they give you these audio tapes.
Mm.
So you can audio, I'm old man. So the audio tapes of
Cassette
like Ziggy
tapes.
Ziglar and Les Brown and Jim
Yeah.
Rohn and all these great speakers. I'd never even heard of these guys, but
Mm.
I knew I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be motivated. And so, because I was in sales for a Fortune 500 company, and I wanted to be one of the best. So I said, I need some motivation. So as I'm driving around my car, these different accounts, I would pop those tapes on. I'm like, man, who's this guy? And some ladies too, Patricia Fripp, other people. And I'm like, who are these people? And let me tell you what happened. Hearing them speak connected me to my childhood. And let me tell you what happened. I've always had a gift of linguistics. I can always communicate well. And I always motivated people. When I was a little kid, like in middle school, elementary school, I was like a second grade motivator. Somebody was being bullied. I was the person they called on to be inspired, which is in me. And so I started making a personal connection that, man, these people are living the life I want to live. I want to inspire people. I want to maximize my potential. And so it was then that I realized I've got this great corporate job. I can climb this ladder probably and retire and get my 401k and be a happy man, or I can pursue my dreams and still be happy. Go after my goals and my dreams. And I chose the latter. Gave up a very comfortable corporate position to start primarily initially in training and development in workforce many, many years ago. And from that, today I've authored, 8 books, working on 2 more. I've traveled all over the world. I've been on thousands of stages. I've keynoted at, I can't even count the number of conferences. We have contracts with big corporations, businesses. So you saw them, at United doing work there. It's just mushroomed into something I couldn't imagine. I have consultants that do work. I have coaches that do work. But the reality is, this is just, again, another nugget for your audience. When I saw somebody live in my dream, I immediately connected. Now, let me make sure this is important, because we got a lot of everybody out there think they're a speaker. The whole world, everybody think they got this message. Well, don't think that you always have to be a speaker or a consultant or a trainer. If you got a voice to share, maybe you could be a school teacher. Maybe you can be a community leader. Maybe you could be a preacher. Don't always have to think like it's like, I knew I was supposed to be doing what these folks were doing. I knew that. And it takes work to do what they were doing. So I was willing to put the time in. But a lot of times when people want to get in this field, they just think, oh, I see this person speaking, I want to get on those stages too. And they get out there and realize it's not as easy as it looks. You gotta know what you're doing.
It is.
You got to know how to be a good business person, because this is, but also it's your calling, and you're willing to make this sacrifice every single day. So that's important for your audience, man. Have this dream, but put the dream where it belongs. Don't just say, I want to be this big time motivational speaker because Coach D is a speaker or Les is a speaker. Maybe you're inspiring young people in your community. So take the passion and narrow it down to a micro passion, something that's more specific and generic to what that you really have a passion for. And take your eyes off of that and focus. And you can still make a good career there. You can do well, So I'm using speaking, but there's all kinds of folks, authors, doctors, lawyers. Everybody has different dreams. But know that you gotta make connections to the people that are out here who maybe to some extent have had some level of success in what you're trying to do. And whatever you can do, try to learn from them. So I'll leave it right there. But man, once I made the crossroad from business, corporate to what I'm doing now, I never looked back. And that was 22 years ago.
22 years ago. Wow.
Yeah. 22
So
years ago.
what are some lessons that maybe some advice that was passed down to you, and maybe it was from certain speakers that you looked up to that you got to meet? Because I know you got to meet a lot of speakers, like I know you got to meet Les Brown and a few others that it's like a whole list of people. What was some pertinent information that you took from those people that they just talk to you directly and say, hey, Daryl, you need to do this? What would be that information that you could share with us?
Well, I'm going to give a practical piece of advice that wasn't from a speaker, because keep in mind, my world is not just speaking, it's consulting and other things too. So, yeah. So it's not just being, because I don't want people to think that's all I do, because we have much more than that. I met a guy years ago. His name is Earl Stafford. Now, this is what I mean by when you want to connect with people, how you have to approach it a certain way. Well, I was reading USA Today, which I did for many years during the years when we were just primarily doing training. I would get the paper every day. I would read it. And I saw this spread in USA Today, again, about this brother that was in the technology business.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading this article. I said, oh my, who is this guy? You know,
Yeah.
so I'm like, what is he doing? Because keep in mind, you can learn from a lot of people, not necessarily in your industry.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
are principles that you learn, let's say in business, that are transferable from one business to the next.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw this article on this guy, but I got his company information. And then, you know, I just said, I want to meet him. I wasn't calling to try to get him to do anything for me or anything like that. I just want to meet him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I called his company, told him who I was, read this article.
Yeah.
Said, we'll give him the message. Nothing. 3 weeks later, nothing. Called again.
Wow.
Left a message. I wasn't being persistent, but I was being, you know, I wanted to meet this guy. 3 months later, nothing. And so I said, okay, let me try one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote him some letter. I wrote from my heart. And I just said, hey, you know, Mr. Stafford, wrote this letter. And I sent him some letters. Another couple of months, nothing. See, patience is important when you're trying to live your dream. Yeah. Right? So let me tell you what happened. This was a valuable life lesson. I went to my office at 5 o'clock in the morning. Now, normally I'm there by 7, but this day I was in my office at 5. My phone rang at 5:30 in the morning. Wow. And I said, my secretary wasn't there, so I picked it up. And I said, no, Daryl Andrews Enterprise. He said, is this Coach D? I said, yes. I'm like, yes, it is. I said, who's this? He said, it's Earl Stafford. Almost dropped the phone. I almost dropped the phone. And I said, Mr. Stafford, he said, you called me 10 times and you've sent me several letters. And he said this, you want to know why I'm calling you at 5:30 in the morning? I said, please explain, sir. Anything you say, I'm listening to. He said, I wanted to see if you were serious. Mm. He said, you want to build a business like mine? You got to make the commitment. And he said, if you would not have been there, that would have been my only call.
Wow. That's insane.
That's insane.
The one day that you showed up at 5
you know,
o'clock.
there's definitely some divine stuff going on here, okay? Because you're big time.
I mean, it's hard to believe in coincidence when you hear about stories like that, because it's just like, I mean, like, it's not like you, I mean, you didn't know that he was going to call you at 5:30. You didn't know to come there that way. Because, like, maybe, what if you decided to come the day early at 5 o'clock or the day after 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
It wouldn't have mattered because you would have missed the call. So
I would have missed the call.
Yeah.
And so he said to me, are you open Tuesday afternoon? Now my calendar was full. Wow. But I cleaned that puppy up so fast. I said, yes, sir.
Yeah.
I said, I am. He didn't know I had like 10 meetings scheduled. So I canceled all the meetings. He said, meet me in Fairfax, Virginia. I said, meet me in Fairfax, Virginia. I'll talk to you, man. And we went down there. Now I'm sharing a story that leads to the most powerful statement I've ever heard. And so he said, so I met with him in his office. He got this big sprawling office, secretaries. It was incredible. You know what I mean? And so we're sitting down and we're meeting. And he said, you know, Coach, he ain't call me Coach, but Daryl, he said, Daryl, you know, the reality is, he said, you're here to learn from me. So let me give you some quick life lessons. He said, it took me 20 something years to build this business to where it is today. And he said, but it was a lot of sacrifice. He said, there's times, he said, one time we were so challenged early in my business that he said, he said it in a joking way. He said, but I went home to basically end it all. I was going to jump out to my window. He said, but the paint was so dry at the bottom of my window, I couldn't open it. So he said, and he said, my wife was sitting at home in a rocking chair with a candle because all the lights were out. And he said, get a job. She said, he said, so when people see you, they always think you were just this mega success. And he said, but let me tell you something, young man.
Yeah.
He said, there were certain systems I put in place. Yep. And I operated within those systems every day. Okay. He said, I created processes that ultimately led me where I am today. And Andre, the quote I'm about to share it will be a game changer for everyone that listens to your show. And I hope you got thousands listening, because this is a game changer, because he sold that business for $500 million. Okay. Let's be real about this. Okay. I just want to let you know. But this is what he said to me. Young man, I told you I had processes in place. He said this to me. This is so counter society. He said, don't fall in love with the dream, fall in love with the process. I'd never heard anything like that before. He said, the process will take you to the dream. And he said, it's the process that qualifies you for leadership. Man, I was scribbling. I couldn't write fast enough.
Yeah.
it really, because he said, great leaders don't just happen. Great leaders happen as a result of something. And he said, where I am today was a vault of 20 something years of a certain process. And he said, so if you want to be a great leader, don't you dare fall in love with that dream. He said, the problem with the dream is people get too excited about it and they don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
They can tell everybody about the dream. They can talk about it. Oh, one day I'm going to do this. One day, and one day never happens.
One day never comes.
It never happens because they weren't willing to go through those strategic steps. People see me speaking. That's why I always laugh when they say doing what I'm doing. I said, you don't remember when I was standing on that stage and we're 5 people, 6 people, and I'm speaking like there's 100,000 in there. You know, you weren't there when I was instead of getting these big paychecks, I get to speak now. People give me bags of money.
Wow, under the table.
We're changing it. You know, like, this is what we got for you, man.
But they had Cash App.
So what I'm trying to say is, man, if anybody out there wants to build something for themselves, you got to fall in love with the process and stop this microwave desire to get wealthy, microwave desire to be somebody.
Yeah.
Enjoy the process, man. It makes you something. Everybody want to do something quick now. No, what makes you a great leader is not my ability to get 100 million people to follow me on on Instagram within 3 weeks. Now everybody know me. Yeah, you may get some stuff from that. What qualifies you is when you can tell those people relevant information because you've had some experiences. You see what I'm saying? Not because I'm good at trying to get my name out there and make it seem like I'm somebody. Yeah. And I'm not trying to knock anything because I love Instagram. I love the vibe. I love the vibe that's taking place in this generation. But what we need is people who are willing to share experience too.
Yeah.
That you can say, man, this is what I've been through. This is what I challenged with. That's why I love coaching. You know, we've been through some coaching. And I love coaching people because I got 20-some years of experience, man. There ain't too much I don't know about this work.
Yeah. As we all know, electric vehicles are the future. But have you ever wondered how many times you might have to stop for a recharge whenever you get to that point? I don't know the answer to that question, but what if I told you there was a revolutionary technology that has the ability to allow your car to recharge itself? Or what if, on the other hand, you had the ability to own a piece of the company through shares before it even went public on the US stock market? Well, at Derek Automotive, you have the ability to do exactly both for a limited time offer. Learn more at derekautomotive.com. That's DEREK automotive.com. The Experience Center will be opening in Atlantic Station this fall in 2021. Don't just learn, but take part of this historic yet revolutionary technology by purchasing your shares at DATSpeakerLYFE.com. That's DATSpeakerLYFE.com. Derek Automotive, bring convenience to EV recharging. Wow. Yeah.
So anyway,
it's definitely a long road because sometimes, like, I would say, especially like the younger the generation is, like, especially with technology, when technology is moving fast, everything else, you get fast food, you're like so primed at an early age to like want everything to be fast. So when you see people running faster, you see cars going faster, when you see like everything moving, the internet moving fast, like when you see that all around you, like there's no acceptance, there's no understanding of like a time to process things or a time to go through a process to get something.
Yes, sir.
And when that happens, when you're surrounded by that all the time and nobody like sits you down and like teaches you like this is like, I know how that's like the world and society is moving, and it's moving like at lightning speed, but that's not how your career is going to go. That's not how your life is going to go. Like, I mean, time does move fast, but just like as far as like the process for what you want, when you want to build wealth or you want to build a business or you want to build a family or whatever, like those things take time. patience, sacrifice, and commitment, because, everything, in addition to being taught to move fast, our generations are not being taught to commit to anything. Like, whether, start from, the home, like, oh, well, if you are not happy, you can just, you have one argument, just get a divorce. It's, just it's that easy. Like, don't commit. Like, you can just go here, you can go there. Like, if the job is just too hard and you've only been there a week, just quit, just get a new one. Like, not even learning, like, okay, what can I learn from this position? Maybe I don't like it right now. Maybe I don't want to stay here till I retire, which is fine. But what can I learn from this time that I'm here, instead of just always wanting to go to the next, go to the next? Because then when you go to the next all the time, you'll never be able to build roots in anything. You'll never be able to have, like I said, that commitment to be able to have those results, the fruit of your labor. So,
man, I'm gonna tell you, you're a wise young man. That was wisdom what you just kicked right there. Because the reality is, and I just want to say this to your audience as well, what you just shared is going to be a value add moving forward. And what I mean by that is companies and organizations and businesses are going to want people like that. Yeah. Because they've seen enough of the other stuff. They've seen enough of people coming in here 2 weeks, going somewhere else. When they see somebody has certain values of commitment and just values in general, you know what I mean? Basic values. It elevates you in the minds of those who are in positions of power. They say, wow, this is somebody and this is the key part, Andre, is that this is somebody I can trust. You know what I mean? And it's hard to find people I can trust nowadays. I know this because I'm in the workforce with these folks. I deal with these folks that run these big companies, and I'm listening to their conversations. And they're like, where do I find quality people? So you know what they're doing, my friend? And it's scary for us in the United States. They're going across seas. They'll go across seas and pull them over. So what? Because they have the values. Let me share something that really, really scary for people. I read an article 10 years ago, and it was about the NBA, the National Basketball Association. And you see it happening now, Andre. They said because of the lack of character in a lot of our young people in this country, they're going to start recruiting players from across seas. That was 10 years ago. Now, look at some of these rosters. Athletes from everywhere, Australia, Spain. See, they're not necessarily concerned about just your talent anymore, because there's talent. See, we live in a world now. We don't just, the United States is not the world. Contrary to popular opinion. I know New York plays California. We call it the World Series, but it's really not. Until you throw Japan up in
the national series, really.
That's right. It's the United States series. But that's the arrogance of our country. But values are going to be, I'm going to tell you something. Values, commitment are going to be selling points moving forward. Let me tell you two quick stories, and I try not to get emotional, but these are about my children, just the way I've raised my kids. So I'm always raising my kids to be value-centric. And I'll never forget this. I went to my son's college. He went to a school called Ringling College of Art and Design in Sarasota, Florida. One of the top art schools in the country. I mean, literally, when you look at Hollywood and its animation and all that, that's all Ringling. A lot of people don't know about this. It's CalArts and there's Ringling. So I remember I first went down there to a school for the first time. I actually went there to speak. And they didn't even know I was his father. It was kind of interesting. His freshman year, I was a speaker. They invited me down. But anyway, I met one of the deans. And he ran up to me and he said, Mr. Andrews, after my presentations, what are you teaching your son? And I'm thinking, oh man, he only been here for a month. What, he down there wilding already? What's going on? What do you mean, what am I teaching my son? And I said, is he okay? He said, no, to the contrary. He's the most respectful young man on this campus. He calls everybody ma'am and sir. He said, most of the kids around there calling yo and dude and all that. He said, what in the world did you teach your son? And I said, well, that's easy. I said, my wife and I have taught our children since they were little babies. You call adults Mr. or Mrs., whatever their last name is. Until they give you the approval to do anything else, that's what you stay with. He said, I even gave him the approval to call me by my first name. He still won't do it. And I said, because that's a value, a core value that I told my children years ago will reap benefits for them. And look at you coming up telling me this. That he's already reaping benefits with you. And then secondly, you see this hat, this shirt. I just mentioned I just came back from Virginia Military Institute. And so that's a very difficult school. It's not easy. I mean, it's challenging. They push you, physically. It's the most grueling thing I've ever seen. But it's a college and they're preparing you for that next level leadership. And so several people at the campus would walk up to us again, same scenario.
Yeah.
And say, your son is something special. Good young man, good quality, carries himself well, speaks respectfully. And it's just, as a parent, for me personally, I don't want to digress to the parent, because it ain't a parenting seminar, but I want to mention how much that means. You know what I mean? That we plant these seeds, but then going back to what I said earlier, the favor that they get because of those values.
Yeah.
People are willing to help them. So again, for those who are out there who are desiring to do stuff, don't go with the status quo. If you see folks being disrespectful, hollering at managers, don't roll with them. You want to show people respect and dignity. And what happens is then those same people will turn around and want to do they want to do the world for you. You see? So, but it goes back to what you were saying earlier, Andre, just those things, that desire, that quick hit. Don't get caught up in all that stuff. You know what I mean? Don't even allow that to consume your thoughts, because anything that you get quick, you're not going to value anyway. It's something, it takes time. When you put the energy into something, you value it more when you get it, because you know you paid that price. You did. You know, you paid the price. And so I'll just digress from there, man. But just values are so important, man. They're really important. And I hope the folks listening get that out of this conversation.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, we always try to talk about that all the time, because I mean, that was one of the reasons why this podcast even started in the first place. Because I mean, we just understand that, and just try to keep taking the time to understand that values, no matter what society is saying or what other people are doing, like, it will, you know, even though it sounds boring sometimes, it sounds like, oh, well, you know, like you're on that, you know, moral high horse type of stuff. But it's not that you're on a moral high horse. It's just that, I mean, it's just refreshing, you know, when, you know, people hear that, whether it be teachers, whether it be people in authority, and then they hear kids, especially, you know, being respectful in a world where a lot of kids, especially in America, are not being respectful, or just people in general, you know, young people, because they a lot of times, you know, people see our generation, the millennials, as like, oh, well, they just think they know everything. They don't want to take advice. But I think, like, sometimes it can be perceived that way, but then I would say other people are respectful. Like, for people like myself, we're respectful, but we also ask questions and don't just assume that just because that person's an authority that they're automatically right as well. So I think that's another thing that we're challenged with as a society, between the older generations and the younger generations too, because it's that balance between, like, all right, I respect you as an elder, but at the same time, like, here's another way to look at it, because this could be a more efficient or a more effective process. And just because I know I'm younger and have less experience, I mean, we're using technology. You're growing up with technology, and this is a more efficient way to do stuff. You know, I've had to, you know, show stuff to my dad that, you know, at first, you know, it takes him to, you know, to help him with this photography business. Hey, Dad, you need to use social media. Look, I know you've been doing photography for over 30 years, but you got to use social media.
Get on in there, Dad. Hey, man.
Yeah. So, you know,
I'll tell your dad, I'll speak to your dad through me. My daughter took over my Instagram.
Yeah.
she looked at that thing. She said, Dad, that's a disgrace. She said, you way too talented to have an Instagram page to look like that. So now it looks good, man. She took it and started running with it, put her spin on it. I was like, who is that? She said, that's you, Dad. That's, oh my goodness. You know.
You bet you're a whole new man.
Hey, man. I said, baby, you got Daddy looking good, you know. So,
man,
but, you know, but she has a lot to work with, because like your dad, 30 years, I got a lot of experience, so she can just, it's easy for her to put that in there. But the reality is, right. And let me say this, that's not being disrespectful. That's called, what you're talking about now is something that people need to hear. And that's called innovation. You're one thing I love about your generation is you're an innovation generation. You can create stuff a whole lot quicker. Now that's just let me clarify this. a whole lot quicker in your processes because that's how you're wired.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I sit on some boards and they drive me crazy because you got a bunch of older folk and they still trying to do stuff like back in the 70s. That's like, listen, man, we don't
There's
even
a
have
new
a
way.
Facebook page. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous. And we sitting up here talking about what I said, man, this is ridiculous. So what I'm saying is you got to have a nice merger of the two, where you have that experience of people who are in the boomer category, like myself and the millennials and Gen Xers and all the different generations. Converging. You know, like with me right now, I'm all, man, I got very few boomers around me, man. I got Xers, I got why, because I'm a business owner, man. I ain't trying to, sit around here and do the things like we did 30 years ago.
Back in the 50s and 60s.
Oh, man, that's what I'm saying. Give me some millennials, give me some boomers, give me some X's and let them do their thing. Because so what I'm saying is that there's a dual message here. Obviously, the respect for the experience and also the understanding of innovation, and we need that nowadays. And also personal reinvention. Now, I do a lot of work in that space where I help people reinvent themselves, their careers. And I tell people all the time, I said, that's a pivot. That's a shift.
It is.
That's a shift. Let me tell one other quick story. I know we don't have much time, but last year, COVID crashed everything. We all woke up one day like, what in the heck just hit us?
Man, it was crazy. It affected a lot of people's businesses and livelihoods.
Oh my God, man, it was incredible. And so I'm no different than everybody else. I own a consulting and speaking and training. I had contracts all over the country. I was rolling, man. And listen to this, Andre, in 1 week, everything crashed. Customer after customer after customer called, emailed, got to cancel, got to postpone. I said, wait a minute, this is happening too fast. I'm like, what are you doing? I was actually in an office, a meeting with a customer that had to postpone. I'm like, we talking about doing 6 months of this? And she said, we're not doing it right now because of this COVID. So this is the funny part. I jokingly tell people after losing 85 to 90% of my business in 1 week, I did what any logical, intelligent person would do. I sat on my couch, I got some popcorn, root beer, and I watched Netflix. And I did myself a good old weekly binge, a week-long binge. And but after that week, I said, whoa, woe is me. I called my team together and said, man, forget this, man. I've been telling people to reinvent for 20 plus years. I got a book, Reinvention, The Pathway to Job Search.
Time to apply it.
Yeah, I got a book, How to Find Your Passion and Make a Living at It. Even got a book for teenagers, The Purpose Living Teen, A Teen's Guide to Living Your Dream. I said, I've been researching and talking about this stuff for 20. What am I doing? So
time to act.
Yeah, man. So I got busy, redesigned my website, redesigned all our social media, redesigned our marketing packages around virtual this, virtual that, virtual solutions. And I created a weekly show with like 500 people showing up. Free, I didn't charge, just trying to carry people through the pandemic, through some weekly motivation. It was crazy. And then within 3 to 4 months after everything fell apart, my business tripled and it hasn't stopped since then. It could, and now keep in mind, I could have easily succumbed. Said, this is over. What did I do, my friend? I reinvented.
Wow.
So I want to say this is one of my last and final thoughts for people out there. If you're still waiting for things to change, and go back to where they were.
Stop waiting.
You are in serious trouble.
Big trouble.
You are in serious trouble because the reality is the world was, there's an old saying to get my age away. It was the rug was pulled from under us. And the reality is it ain't going back.
It's not.
So do I do live programs again? Sure. But 75% of my business is still virtual and growing.
Wow.
Because of the reality of the times we live in. I would be a fool to go back and try to reinvent, go back to where it was. So even in your career, what's a new pathway? What are the needs now? What are people looking for? Don't look at what you did. What are your transferable skill sets? That can go from one position to another. You got to think, like that book years ago, Think and Grow Rich. And there's a book was titled Thinking, not, just do whatever and grow. Think. And where do I bring the most value? And then make the pivot, man. Now we're doing virtual coaching, virtual everything. And then I get to go to hang at BMI. See, when I was doing my travel stuff, I could do that kind of stuff. I was always on the airplane.
That's right. You get to have a higher quality of life.
Thank you, my friend. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. A much better quality of life.
Yeah.
So I don't like what happened during COVID. I lost 10 good friends. It still hurts to this day. But
Hmm.
professionally, I love it.
Yeah.
I'm glad. Let me leave you with one last term. And I want everybody to remember it's called disruptive innovation. Don't ever forget that as long as you live. Disruptive innovation. It's only happened several times in our country's history. All right.
Hmm.
And disruptive innovation is simply this: there's something that disrupted the norm to where you were forced to change.
Hmm.
But at the end of that change was something a whole much better because you had to innovate. You
Yeah.
know, you had to innovate. Back in the Great Depression, you had two
Hmm.
kinds of companies. You had the companies where people lost everything, and they say,
Hmm.
"Woe is me," gloom and
Hmm.
doom. These people committed suicide. These people
Yeah.
lost everything during the Great Depression. Then you had a whole other group of people say, "Oh yeah, we're gonna do some new fun stuff now," and they
Time to
shifted
make some more
gears.
money.
They shifted gears, and many of those companies are still around today.
Hmm.
So, just keep that in mind. We've talked about a lot, and it's all dream centric stuff. But, today there's opportunities out here for those who are innovative thinkers,
Yes.
those who are willing to try new things and go
Hmm.
down new pathways, which may require some more education. Maybe it's not going back to school and being taught to do something else because this career is taking off now.
It
You
is, yeah. And
you know,
maybe
so
not
like,
even like traditional like
yeah.
university for some people. Like for,
Mhm,
others, okay, that's your path. But other people, you
mhm,
may, go to some online courses and
mhm.
maybe about real estate or maybe about
Yeah, man.
coaching,
Yep.
consulting, whatever. You don't have to
Mhm.
go to a 4-year college,
Nope.
and pay all this money and swim in debt to
Nope.
go to, get an education.
No, man, you don't have to do any of that. Nowadays, I'm telling you, man, it's abounding with opportunities. But the reality is, we can only share this information. Like I
Yeah.
said, I had to pivot. You know what I mean? I can still be sitting on that couch watching Netflix,
Yeah.
all this time later. But I said, no, man, I gotta.
Yeah.
This is actually an opportunity for us, and
Hmm.
let's take advantage of it. And I'm negotiating some deals now that could be deals we've never seen before around here.
Mm.
But but it's because we pivoted. You know what I
Wow.
mean? Develop partnerships, relationships with people we would never interacted with before.
Mm.
Use my influence of 20 something years to connect with folks who say, maybe we can partner around this, or maybe we can partner around that. I wouldn't have thought of doing that stuff before.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
innovation through disruptive innovation got me thinking about all this stuff. And now we're coaching people, man, more people than we've ever coached, but it's all virtual. You know what I
Wow.
mean? It's all virtual, man. We don't have to leave. I'm at home now because I just got back from, my son, but I got, office in Wilmington, Delaware. But,
Mhm.
sitting from that office in Wilmington, we just do all of our work right there in front with these computers. And I love it.
Yeah.
People always say live is better. I said, you know what? They both good. I
Yeah.
like live, but I like being virtual too, because you can still be impactful virtually. You still can.
That's right. That's right.
So man,
So as we wrap things up, we like to ask everybody, if life is looked at as like a house and it had, you have your foundation of the house, what
Mhm.
will be one of the foundational pillars of your house or your life?
That's a good question. Um, there's so many things rolling through my head as you ask that question. I think, but one, if I can say this without, because everybody's on their own path as far as how they're living their life, is
Hmm.
that for me personally, it's my faith, man. It's my
Yeah.
faith in God. Um, I know I couldn't be the man, the father, the husband. We just celebrated 27 years of marriage, my wife and I.
Oh yeah, that's right.
7 years,
Congratulations.
man. And raising my kids the way I raised them. So for me,
Hmm.
man, it is what it is. I know there's different people, different faiths and beliefs, but the reality is, man, if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't be sitting in this interview right now.
Yeah.
It's the blessing of what he's put on me and my family. My wife and I were told it was medically impossible to have kids. We prayed for our kids.
Mm.
Now we have four, you
Wow.
know. And so I always tell people all the time, I said, if I didn't understand faith, looking in the face of four kids that I prayed for would tell me every day.
Mm.
That there is a true and a living God. So that's the biggest pillar in this home. But we also know that you still got to put your hands to the plow, man. You can't
Hmm.
just sit around here and just think things gonna fall out the sky. You got to work.
God, please give me something.
Yes.
That's
God,
not how it
please
works.
bring me 1,000 business. No, you gotta talk to folk. You know what I mean? The Bible says he'll give you favor with man, but you can't meet man to get the favor. I mean, it's just
Faith
don't
without
happen.
works is dead.
Faith without works is dead. So don't,
Yeah.
for those who are out there who are maybe Christians, don't think that things are just
Mm.
gonna happen because you're sitting around. You got to get out. And
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I said, and then you got to put faith. Like I'll say this with the children thing. We
Mhm.
were told was medically impossible. I said, okay, I went bought a room for my son because we named him Daryl Sophia Alexander, and then we adopted Abigail. So we had our kid's name, and the first name was Daryl. I said, "What's going to be the first? Going to be a boy." So I set up a room in my house with a crib with boys' clothes.
Nice.
You lost your mind. I said, "Boy, that boy coming one day. You just hang in there." That room was set up for 2 years, and 2 years later, my wife told me she was pregnant.
Wow.
So the point I'm making is, man, that's why I just, that's my foundation. I believe in it, and we've been blessed as a family, man. And I've been blessed as a person. It's just been amazing, considering a lot of what I came from. Not that where I came from was bad, because I had good people around me, but yeah. So
yeah, and so last question is a question of the day, and very very lighter question than the last one. And if it's today's question of the day is, if you could co-author a book with any of your favorite authors, or one favorite author, who would it be?
That's a good question, man. Now you really a lighter one. That ain't light.
a lighter question.
Yeah. Who would I I would probably like to, because I just like this person as a person. I like we have very similar values. It would probably be the former football coach Tony Dungy. Because I just like Tony, man. I like the way he lives his life. I like the way he coached his players. His players said he never raised his voice, man, ever. And when the guy went and won the Super Bowl, took one team almost to the Super Bowl. Yeah. And you see some coaches ripping heads off and can't even get to the Super Bowl, And I just think, and he does a lot with fatherhood. And he started the All Pro Dads, I think that's his thing. So I think, there's lots of people I can, suggest that I would like, but I just, because of the values and the way he lives his life, it'd probably be Tony Dungy.
Tony Dungy. That's a good one. Yeah, that's awesome. But anyways, man, thank you so much for being here. And thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you take this time to also follow Coach D on Instagram. You can follow him at Coach D Speaks. That's Coach D Speaks. We'll leave the link below. And if you want to connect with him, or if you're looking for a speaker or a consultant or anything like that at your business, your company, your organization, definitely reach out to him as well. He definitely, email, whatever you can reach him at. So, and we also
if I can just tell folks, the website is coachdspeaks.com. So that's coachdspeaks.com. Yeah.
Okay. We'll also, we'll leave a link to the Instagram and the website as well in the description. So, but yeah, thank you again, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for engaging with us on this episode. We really appreciate you guys. And again, the greatest way you can show your appreciation is not even giving money, but giving your attention to the point where you like, subscribe, and you also share this video on YouTube with other people, so that other people can get this message, and we can include more people in the Speak Your Life family. So again, thank you guys again. We love you guys, and we'll see you on the next episode.